What's up guys, Matt Laidlaw here, coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, LA area's oldest, largest and finest Harley-Davidson dealership. So I got a lot of requests to do a test ride and review on the Softail Deluxe. So that's the review I'm going to be doing today. So a request that I've been getting lately is people want to actually see me from a third-party perspective and actually see me riding the bike and on the bike and kind of how my posture and ergonomics look on the motorcycle. So those of you that watch my videos on a regular basis know that I'm definitely a tall rider. I'm 6 foot 6 inches tall, and so a bike like this I do feel a little bit scrunched up on. But you know, here's a shot of myself on the motorcycle so you guys can kind of see how a 6 foot 6 inch rider looks like on this bike and kind of make a judgment call, you know, based on your height from there. So let me start off with a brief history on this motorcycle. So if we rewind the hands of time back to 1993, Harley-Davidson released a bike called the Softail Nostalgia. It was kind of a spin-off version of the Heritage, but it was more of a clean lines, less of the clutter, more minimalist, lowered, fat features, kind of a gangstered out type of a Softail, big full fenders on it and everything. And they only made 2,500 of these bikes that year. It was called the Softail Nostalgia, and it was a really popular bike. They sold out almost immediately, and Harley-Davidson, it was a numbered bike, again only 2,500 of them. And it was such a popular model, the very next year, in 1994 through 1996, they renamed the bike to a Softail Special, just because they promised everybody that bought in 1993 that they wouldn't be reproducing that bike ever again. It was a very limited edition model. So then fast forward to 2005, they came out with the Softail Deluxe. So technically, in 2005 was the first year of the Deluxe, but really the Deluxe is the model designation is an FLSTN, just like in 1993 through 96, but it got the name the Deluxe, but it has kind of the same lines and everything that that 1993, what people oftentimes refer to as the Moo Glide, because it has a cow print on the seat. It has kind of the same features and style of that 1993, what they call the Nostalgia. So let me jump into this bike here a little bit. So that's actually a shot of the ABS sensor right there. There's like a little black ring on the right side of the hub there. So the Deluxe is your slammed out, real like 50s era looking, gangstered out Softail. You got kind of this saddle type seat, and sorry this is kind of scatterbrained guys, but part of the reason I bring up that story is the word nostalgia. This bike is a very, very nostalgia looking motorcycle. Really big, full wrapped, wide fenders on here with a lot of the chrome trim and everything. You got laced wheels on this thing, white wall tires. Here's a shot of the rear end. It is in the Softail family. So with the Softail, you have the B motor. This is a 103B motor, B standing for balanced. So this is a hard mounted engine to the frame as opposed to being rubber mounted. It has a counterbalancing system in there so as to alleviate the vibration that would have otherwise been in the handlebars. The Softail frame also has horizontally mounted suspension up underneath the frame. The Softails first came out in 1984, and that's actually a phrase that Harley-Davidson coined and has now copyrighted. So Softail is a copyrighted name for these bikes. Here's a shot of rear end. Nice shot of the pulley there, chrome belt guard. So really what you're getting with the Softail guys is you're getting a real vintage look. No suspension in the rear that's visible, so it looks like a hardtail, and the engine is really compactly fit into the frame on these things. They're able to do that because this is the battery lead, by the way, where you can plug in a tender. So the engine is real tightly compact into the frame, and so it gets that really compact look. They're able to accomplish that because the frame is hard mounted, or the engine is hard mounted to the frame, I should say. And just a lot of chrome on this bike. So here's a shot of the passenger pegs there, just your pretty plain Jane rubber peg for the passenger. So this bike is available and comes ready to ride with 2 people from the factory. You got floorboards on this model, so yeah, real easy, real relaxed style of riding and position. This bike has a really low seat height too, so this bike is very popular with some of the shorter riders. You know, the two things, the low seat height with the low suspension plus the fact that it's a Softail, those two things in combination really give this bike a low seat height. You get this leather strip that's down the center of the tank there. Real simple basic instrumentation, kind of a retro looking speedometer there. Let me go through the digital gauges here. This button here will cycle between your odometer, your trip A, your trip B, how many miles you have before you run out of gas, your clock, and then a digital gear and RPM readout as well. This bike comes standard with ABS now. It wasn't always like that, but it is now. Here's your fuel gauge on the left, your filler cap on the right. All the gas goes in here on the right. It wasn't always that way. Back 20 years ago, you had to fill up both tanks independently of one another, both sides. Harley recommends premium fuel. In California, the octane rating is 91. Of course, that may change depending on what state or country you're from. So this comes with the 2 passing lamps, the auxiliary lights on the side. That switch right there that I just clicked will turn on the auxiliary lights there. This lighting setup is one more feature that really gives this bike that classic, like almost like I compare this to like the 50s era of cars, like the look that it goes for. Real classic, big full fenders. Nowadays it seems like a lot of the fenders are all now kind of minimalist, chopped, or don't have a lot of the chrome and trim around the fenders. So they're kind of getting away from that style as more of a modern look. So this still has that old school chrome trim, that the chrome lettering on the side of the fender that says Deluxe on there. Here's a shot of the keys. So when you buy this bike, you get 2 barrel keys. And security is an option. It's $395. This bike comes with the security on here. So you get the 2 fobs. They're buttonless. They're all proximity sensor based. So when you get close to the bike, the alarm automatically disengages itself. I shouldn't say alarm actually because it's silent. It's just a ignition cut system. So there's the functionality of the barrel key, guys. When you move the notch up to 12 o'clock, it's locked. Move it back to 3 o'clock, it's unlocked. And then you can turn the ignition on. There's your run switch there that I just clicked. After that, just a switch on the left with the little electric bolt there starts it up. The button above that is your emergency flashers. And I'll walk around the bike here to demonstrate the 4 o'clock there. So you move the notch there from 9 o'clock up to 12 o'clock to lock the forks. And once you've done that, the forks stay locked with the steering pointed to the left there. And you'll move that notch from 12 o'clock down to 9 o'clock to unlock it. So you lock that, and then you lock your ignition, and those are your 2 layers of protection. And then if you've got the security fob, that's one more layer, a 3rd layer of protection, so someone doesn't rip off your bike. So it's immediately recognizable that this engine is counterbalanced as opposed to rubber mounted, as there's very little vibration in the engine. On most of the other Harley-Davidsons that are rubber mounted, you've got that shake and vibration of the engine within the motorcycle's frame. So here's just kind of some key styling points. This is Harley-Davidson.com. I always like to jump over to the site real quick during these review videos. So yeah, it's kind of, once again, floorboards, full fenders, the bigger nacelle, all chromed out, pullback handlebar. Just a lot of traits that kind of enhance the whole real nostalgic look about the bike. Real nice badging. You got the label of Deluxe on the fender there. So let me jump into the colors that are available in the 2017 model year. So this is Vivid Black. The second color here is Superior Blue. Vivid Black obviously is the color I'm using on the bike in this demo. This color is called Velocity Red. Really nice red color there. Last year they offered it in a two-tone, the Velocity Red and Mysterious Red two-tone. This year it's just the solid Velocity Red. Here's a color that they also paint on the Heritage. This is Crushed Ice Pearl and a teal color. This is a really cool, like California, like beach cruiser style color. This is what Harley-Davidson considers a custom color. It's a factory custom color. They call it Bonneville Blue and Fathom Blue. This is a hard candy color. I believe they call this a hard candy Mystic Purple. I have yet to actually see this color in person. It's just you gotta have a special customer to want this color. Someone who really wants to be different. So I actually didn't order any of these colors this year. So let me jump into some of the specs and the pricing here. So just a base one in Vivid Black, you're looking at $18,549. And if you add any color other than black, you jump up $400 in price. And then if you want a two-tone color, you jump up another $200, $250. So you can get a wheel option. The wheel option gives you smooth rims as opposed to a rim with kind of that ribbed area to it. It's like a dome smooth rim on these bikes if you get that wheel option. I personally don't order a whole lot in the wheel option, just because for that extra $460 or whatever, it's a really subtle difference. Very few people want to pay that extra money for that really subtle difference. So it's a 16-inch wheel in the front and in the rear. You got a 5-gallon fuel capacity in these. This bike weighs about 730 pounds. What you don't see on the stat sheet though is this weight is really low slung, and so this bike is really easy to handle for a 730 pound motorcycle. That's one of the things that's kind of inherent with the Softail chassis, is the weight is really low to the ground, and that's accomplished a lot due in part to the fact that they're low bikes, but also that it's hard mounted to the frame as opposed to the rubber mounting. So engine torque, 100 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPM. That's at the crank, I like to point out. You got 42 miles to the gallon on this beast. And that's a combination of city and highway. Around town, you're probably going to get around like 33, 34 miles to the gallon. Up on the highway, you'll probably get in the high 40s, like 48, 49, something like that. And ABS does come standard on this motorcycle. Security is an option for $395. Here's the official engine name. It's the air-cooled high-output twin-cam 103B. So it is the twin-cam engine in here, 100% air-cooled. So I wanted to start off the riding portion of this video in a little bit different way. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about kind of the sales and the popularity and trends that have kind of surrounded this bike. And all I can speak for is our dealership and what we've seen as far as sales over the last 20 years. But it's kind of been interesting. In the late 90s, in the early 2000s, Softails absolutely dominated as far as sales. Everybody wanted a Softail. They didn't want to go to a touring chassis bike because those were kind of the grandpa bikes. And the Softails were the really cool, stylized bikes that looked the best. And so everyone was picking up the Softails. The Sportsters were still, really small. So if you wanted a bike to get out on the road and you were an experienced rider and real confident with your Harley-Davidson experience and riding ability, you'd go to a Softail. Pretty much the only guys that were going to the touring bikes were the guys that maybe had to have the absolute best comfort, or the guys that were hardcore tourers. Nobody bought like an Electroglide for just local around town stuff. So in the early 2000s, bikes like the Fat Boy, the Heritage Softail, the Softail Deuce, these were extremely good selling bikes. And certainly in 2005, when the Deluxe came out, 2005, 6, 7, and 8, this bike killed it. The Deluxe was probably the #1 best-selling bike. I remember in 2007, selling these bikes, everybody wanted a Softail Deluxe. It was an extremely popular bike. But then something kind of changed around 2006 and 7. In 2006, Harley-Davidson came out with the Street Glide, and that kind of started a new a shift in people's preference. A lot of guys were going to the Street Glide because now they could have the best of both worlds. They could have a real cool, sleek looking bike that wasn't, quote, like grandpa styling, but they also got the comfort of a touring bike as well. So when you get out on the highway, you can blast at high speeds on the highway and have a real comfortable cruiser. So we have now seen the Deluxe go from the #1 best-selling bike to the Street Glide being the #1 best-selling bike, and or the Road Glide, shortly behind, because you now have all the conveniences and the comforts of a touring bike with the style and the coolness of the sleek-looking Street Glide, minimalist, less lighting and trim and things like that on the Street Glide. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting. Maybe you guys didn't want to know all that information, but it's been interesting to see how the Softails have kind of gone from the best-selling Harley-Davidson family to a family that still a lot of people buy, but it's, in my opinion, fallen into more of a niche market and a niche buyer, and that buyer mostly being someone who really, really likes the nostalgic classic lines of a Softail motorcycle, in that it looks like a hardtail. It's a really clean rear end. You can see the full rear wheel. It's unobstructed by the rear shocks. Anyways, let me talk a little bit more specifically about this motorcycle. So I'm going to take it up on the freeway here. The 103 cubic inch engine definitely powers this thing effortlessly, no problem there. Accelerates really strong. The ride comfort at freeway speeds, I would say, is decent. I wouldn't say great. If I were to give it 1 through 10, I'd probably give it somewhere around a 6 or a 7. 10 being like an ultra limited. I'd give this thing, like I say, like a 6, 6.5, 7, something like that. And like a Street Glide or like a Road Glide, I'd probably give those bikes like an 8, 8.5. So here I've set the cruise control. You have electronic cruise control on this bike. There's a green 6 right to the left of the tack. You can kind of see right there. When you're in 6th gear, the 6 illuminates. But the electronic cruise control works really, really well on this bike. You can set it, and as you can see, you can let go of the throttle with your right hand. The lean angle on this bike, and I apologize if you guys watch a lot of my videos. I may sound like a broken record when I talk about two different Softails. The lean angle on the Deluxe, and really with all Softails, is not good. You cannot lean this bike over very much at all without scraping the boards. But scraping the boards and coming in and checking out your boards is kind of bragging rights. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you're looking for a bike to take up through the canes, through the twisties, and really ride aggressively, the Deluxe is not your bike. This is definitely a cruiser's bike. The handlebars are kind of a nice pullback handlebar as opposed to like a Heritage. A Heritage has kind of like a mini ape style bar. So this is good if you're not so tall. For me, unless I flare out my knees, if I'm making a tight turn like a U-turn or something like that, the bars will hit my knees. And so that was one thing that at my height that wasn't good. These bikes are pretty popular with guys that need a lower seat height. So if you're between maybe 5'4" at the very shortest to about 5'10" or so, this would probably be a pretty good fit for you. The braking system on this bike works really well. I want to say 2015 Harley-Davidson upgraded the brakes in a big way. They really reduced the brake lever effort that was required to stop this thing. I can stop this bike easily with one finger, no problem. I think that's when they went to a 4-piston caliper. It is a single front disc brake on here and a single rear wheel disc brake as well. And they work really well. The bike stops no problem. You got independent front and rear ABS brakes. The ABS works well. I've been in situations where I've had to stomp on it. If you hit like water or gravel or something like that, I don't run into any situations where I'm over ice. This is Southern California, but for other parts of the country where you guys run into like black ice and things like that, the ABS definitely works well, does its job well. The seat is really nice as well, very wide, supportive. It's like a saddle style seat. So of all the Softails, the Deluxe seat is one of the best. Now that's the rider seat. The passenger seat, I can't really say the same for that. The passenger seat is kind of more of a cosmetic statement than a comfort, functional type seat. You got this little luggage rack that comes off the back as well, which I don't think most people use it. If you're strapping something down to the little luggage rack with like bungees or something, you got to be careful that like your bungee and your cargo don't rub the fender, because you'll rub the paint really dull. And the paint, this kind of goes without saying, all Harley Davidsons have really good paint. The paint's second to none as far as the motorcycle industry is involved. If you get scratches or get dull areas on this paint, you can buff it out. The clear coat's really thick on Harley paint. It's a 3 mil clear coat, which is a lot thicker than most motorcycles out there. The counterbalanced engines on the Softails are really reliable. They have really good longevity as well, because they're not subjected to all the vibration that some of the rubber mounted engines have. The counterbalanced engines last a really long time. I just met a guy the other day. He rolled up on a 2001 Night Train. He had 240,000 miles on his Night Train, and he said all he did was he had to change the clutch once, and that was it. He just ran oil in it real religiously, and his bike just ran forever. So I would recommend the Softail Deluxe to people that are looking for a very classic cruiser motorcycle. The Softails, especially the Deluxe, have a lot of parts made for them. Everything fits this bike. There's so many customization opportunities you have on this thing. A lot of the guys that do like the lowrider shows will pretty much, a lot of them have these Deluxes. A lot of guys that are going to get the air system, maybe the ape hanger bars are a really popular option for this bike. Guys that are really just kind of gangstering these bikes out. I use the word gangster loosely, but if you're looking for that style, this is definitely a good platform to go that route. If you're somebody that is going to get out and blast down the freeway and go from state to state, and you're going to ride these things hard, there's better options out there for you. Again, like I've said before, if you're a little bit on the short side and maybe you're not comfortable with a big top-heavy touring bike like a Road King or a Street Glide or something like that, this would be a good option for you. But yeah, that's pretty much my recommendation. I have a lot of people that have been riding Harleys for a while. Maybe they're on their second or third Harley, but they just can't touch the ground very confidently on a taller bike. A lot of them will go for a Deluxe, and they're very happy with them. but I wouldn't recommend a Deluxe to a real tall, big, heavy dude. Your knees are going to be up above the tank, like you saw with when I sat on it, and I just don't feel like the Deluxe handles a lot of weight at high speeds very good. And in case I didn't mention it, this bike does have the lowered Softail shocks, much like your Fatboy Low did. They discontinued the Fatboy Low, but the Softail Slim and your Fatboy S have the lowered shocks. So you're not going to have the range of motion that like a Fatboy Standard and a Heritage have. So if you're a heavy guy, then, and when I say heavy, maybe 230 pounds plus, something like that, then this ride, the suspension's not going to keep up with your weight very good at high speeds. So, and you can kind of see right there, if you're to load 2 people on the bike, then if you're blazing down the freeway, you better put a comfortable seat on this bike if you're going to keep your passenger happy. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you and answer any questions that maybe I missed in the video. As always, if you're looking for a Harley-Davidson in the Southern California area, you know where to find me. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate everyone that follows me and watches me on YouTube.